welcome to the 2015 Frontline Club Awards. And thank you for coming, and I hope you have a great evening. Now, I'd like to thank our sponsors, because none of this would be possible without Vodafone, and Matthew Kirk from Vodafone is going to be giving out some of the prizes. So thank you, Matthew, for coming, and thank you, Vodafone. Shivas, it's down to them. Thanks, Shivas. And again, there are prizes from Canon, so I'd like to thank our sponsors again. Without their help, none of it would happen. And of course, the judges who've made all the decisions, I'd like to thank them, because it's been quite hard work, lots of them to get through, and so thank them. And of course, Millie, over here, who's really done a lot of work to make this all happen. I haven't done any at all. So. I think it's helpful to understand the criteria that we have for the awards. The judges have tried to make their decisions based on courage, integrity, and independence of spirit. And again, it's always hard because of the massive amount of people who subscribe, because they want to win our awards, thankfully. So that's very good. Now, I shan't go on, but we have a very exciting keynote speaker, I think. There's an outfit that you may have heard of in Syria called the White Helmets. A phenomenal group of some of the most courageous people you'll meet. And Farouq al Habib is their political counsellor, and he's kindly agreed to come and talk to us about their work. So.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting us, and we feel proud and humble at the same time to be with you and share this event with you. Please allow me first to take this opportunity to remember the late great lady Sue Lloyd-Sobers, the BBC reporter who passed away a week ago. She was the first reporter who came to Syria and when the Syrian uprising started, and she risked her life to tell the truth and tell the world what was happening in Syria. So may God bless her and her soul rest in peace. Actually, the mission which you as journalists are doing to tell the truth from the front lines and pass the messages of the people who suffer in the risky areas. It is a great mission for people like us who work to rescue lives, because you put your lives in danger in order to tell the truth and try to ease the suffering of the people by raising awareness about their suffering. The White Helmets are trying also to do the same by risking their lives in order to rescue others. The Syrian Civil Defense, or what's called the White Helmets, is now the biggest civilian organization in Syria, with more than 2,700 volunteers working in 111 stations across 8 governorates. It is one of the few civilian organizations which is still struggling, regardless of all the difficult circumstances in Syria, to pass the message of the Syrian people and the pure and original message of the Syrian revolution, which is about humanity and impartiality in providing assistance for the people and struggling to achieve their goal and legitimate aspirations. The Syria Civil Defense is working in very hard conditions, similar to the conditions and risks that you face. Till now, 109 volunteers from the rescue teams of the White Helmets were killed inside Syria while they were conducting their operations. And and that happened mainly because of the deliberate targeting of the rescue teams in Syria by the double tax. It might be unbelievable, but in many areas in Syria, the rescue teams camouflage their ambulances and fire engines in order to protect them, because the flags and the colors of the rescue teams sometimes expose those teams to more threats, and it attracts bombing from mainly from the Syrian Air Force. UK and the media outlets in UK are well known in objectiveness and well known to be fair. And for this reason, we rely much on the British media in particular to pass the messages of the Syrian people and to tell the truth about what's happening. We feel so depressed when we see international media focus on extremism problem or on the refugees crisis as if it is the main problem in Syria. But actually these are symptoms of the real disease, which is related to the dictatorship and the oppression against the people. Why I'm telling this, although we are not a political organization, we work to rescue all people and to save lives regardless of the background or the religion of the casualty. But because we ourselves as rescue workers, we need assistance of all of you to help us to end that catastrophe in Syria. Every time before I go to a conference or an event, when I spoke to the teams on the ground and asked them, what do you need from the world to help you to be more efficient and conduct more operations? The usual answer is, no, we don't need them to help us to conduct more operations. We need them to help us to stop, because even we are proud of rescuing lives every day and doing what we do, but we feel pain and we're not happy at all with what we are doing. We owe every one of you who cover the stories from Syria. We know the risks which you face in Syria and in other countries, and we salute you. We send you the best regards for the great stories you are telling from Syria, and from other places in the world. And I would like to thank you again for allowing us to be here and send you our messages. And I wish all the best for all of you.
Well, good evening, everybody. And one person Vaughan didn't pay tribute to was Vaughan. To be seen behind the curtain fixing the electronics even before we began. There's nothing he doesn't turn his hand to in keeping this remarkable organisation going. And so to the Frontline Club Awards 2015, and we're going to start with the photojournalism shortlist. First nominated was Phil Moore, photojournalist, nominated for capturing 3 months of political unrest in Burundi for Time magazine. The judges said very enterprising and accomplished work, and terrific dedication to an important African story that is largely ignored. Phil has produced a lot of very high quality work over the last few years, which this portfolio exemplifies. The second nominated is independent documentary photographer Mauricio Lima, nominated for his body of work on the conflict in Syria and the resulting flow of refugees through Europe for the New York Times. The judges said the photography is spontaneous and yet disciplined and artfully crafted. And the project is both enterprising and naturally courageous. This is the work of a photographer in control of his craft. Our third nomination is from photographer and translator Sergei Loko, nominated for the Battle of Donetsk Airport for the Los Angeles Times. And the judges said of him, raw and enterprising work, which shows immense courage and incredible initiative to get to the very point of the action. So now to the print shortlist. What? Oh, we go to the winner. Sorry. Sorry. That's a major boo-boo. To the winner. And we open the envelope, which is immensely exciting. All three could have won, and perhaps they have. Who knows? And the winner is Maurizio Lima, represented by Mona Bushnak. She's photo editor at the New York Times in London. You have that. I get all the prizes.
Fair enough.
You want to give the prize?
Oh yes, why not? Absolutely.
Thank you. I might just keep these. Hello, everyone. My name is Mona Bushnak, and I'm the New York Times photo editor in the UK. Unfortunately, Mauricio couldn't be here today, but he sent a short message that I have the honor on reading on his behalf. So here it goes. Thank you very much for this recognition. I feel very grateful. I would like to give special thanks to the refugees for their braveness, their perseverance, and collective spirit. I'm among them now, still learning from them. That's why I'm not here tonight. I cannot forget to give special thanks to the lovely Majid family from Syria, who accepted me, a stranger, as their shadow for more than a month along their journey from Serbia to Sweden. They said they are now waiting to feel like human beings, in peace, without threats, without shooting, without airstrikes, and all the ongoing hypocrisy over these endless wars for geopolitical obsessions and natural resources, the so-called democracy building in the Middle East and Afghanistan. It is important to mention as well the full support, professionalism, and trust of the New York Times picture editors over my work. On behalf of David First and his team, thank you. And finally, being selected by this prestigious jury of professionals gives me a greater sense of responsibility to continue doing what we believe is an important contribution to society, connecting the real world through the virtual world to a better world one day, we hope. Once again, thank you very much.
And just to thank our sponsors again, and represented here by Matthew Kirk, who brought the treasures up. So we go to the print shortlist. And the first nominated is investigative reporter Anders Freiberg and photographer Tom W. Christensen, nominated for the Vesselman for Dagbladet. The judges said an original and moving piece of reporting that follows a police investigation to identify a body washed ashore in Norway and ends by solving the tale of two missing Syrian refugees, a very powerful expose of the refugee crisis in Europe. And I'll just read you a brief extract just to give you a sense of what they wrote. In a graveyard on the island of Texel, in a northern corner field between Anneke Mottene van den Brink and Anna Cornelia Alibaba, there is a nameless grave. You will find no gravestone, no memorial, no rest in peace, beloved, at the fresh pile of earth where somebody had left a single footprint between small sprigs of chives and daisies. I would really like to give him his name back. No family deserves to live in uncertainty, says investigative journalist Jon Weizenbach. The second print nomination is to former Baghdad bureau chief Nad Parker and colleagues at Reuters, nominated for special report after Iraqi forces take Tikrit, a wave of looting and lynching. They reported naturally for Reuters. The judges said the dispatch was shocking for its clear-eyed, first-hand account of revenge attacks undertaken against suspected IS extremists. Rarely do reporters get so flinchingly close as Reuters did in this account. As a result of this piece, Parker received incredible death threats and was forced to leave the country. In sum, this is an example of wire service reporting of the very first order and deserves our respect and recognition. Here's an extract. The Egyptian sat silently at the feet of two big policemen in their 20s, his eyes filled with fear. He was surrounded by a few dozen people, a mix of federal police and Shiite militiamen. He is Daesh, and we should take revenge for Colonel Imad, the two federal police officers yelled, using a derogatory Arabic term for Islamic State. One of the policemen held a black-handled knife with a 4 to 5 inch blade. The other gripped a folding knife with a 3-inch blade and a brown handle. The third nominated journalist and the author, Anjan Sundaram, is nominated for A Place on Earth, Scenes from a War for Granta magazine. The judges said Sundaram takes the reader to the very heart of the conflict, with glimpses of a physical and psychological front line that is as mysteriously ill-defined as it is deadly. This is an excellent, highly original piece of reportage and writing reminiscent of Kapuscinski and V.S. Naipaul at their best. An extract. We were at the front. The sounds of the bombs were like thunder, instinctively making me look up, again, only to see that the sky was clear, and the repeated clarity of the sky was confusing. The sun was brilliant, like a jewel, the jungle thick with humidity, and the people were moving their lives to the bush, isolating themselves because trust between human beings has been broken, and there was no security and openness. Association in the jungle was kept to a minimum. We heard voices within the leaves, but the boy did not want even to look. And the winner, envelope, Matthew Kirk, soon to appear stage left, or perhaps at stage right, as you look at it. And the winner is Anjan Sundaram.
I'm incredibly grateful for this recognition, and I suppose I'm incredibly surprised that, and astonished to be acknowledged by my fellow peers. I can't imagine a better prize than coming from fellow journalists who've been on the front lines. I'd like to congratulate the other two shortlisted stories, which I've read and are excellent, and any of our pieces could have won. And I'd like to thank the jury. I'd like to thank the people I traveled with on this story, without whom the story would not have been possible. Louis Mudge at Human Rights Watch, and Thierry Mesongo, Central African journalist. And I'd like to thank you all very much for this honor. And thank you.
And actually, we'd like to thank you, because it is a really lyrical piece, even the paragraph that I've written, and the thought that you could write like this under the pressure that you were under the psychological pressure, let alone anything else, is a remarkable testament. So now, we move to the broadcast shortlist, And the first nominated is BBC Middle East editor Jeremy Bowen, camera operator Nikki Millard, correspondent Lena Sinjab, and producer Cara Swift. They're nominated for Yemen, one of the most neglected stories of our time. Human cost of Saudi-led bombing campaign for BBC News. The judges said this report took the viewer into a new battleground, uncovering the layers of complexity in Yemen. It was powerfully and sensitively shot and edited by Nicky Millard, a distinguished videographer at the top of his game. And it was beautifully crafted and written by Jeremy Bowen. Harrowing images, but filmed and scripted with complete humanity.
Just reaching a hospital counts as a miracle. After 3 months of war, Yemen's healthcare system, never strong, is collapsing. Sanaa's main Jumhuriya hospital keeps going under severe strain. Away from these beds, 60% of Yemenis have no access to medical care. When Ahmed Kara Ahmed, a migrant from Ethiopia, was caught in an airstrike, he was traveling through Yemen to try to cross into Saudi Arabia to work. The insides of his lungs were burnt as well as his skin. Even breathing is agonizing.
Our second clip is journalist Safa Al-Ahmed and Raith Abdul Ahad, nominated for Yemen in Fragments for BBC Arabic. The judges said this film had great access and showed a real commitment to the story over a period of years. It helped me understand the conflict there in new ways.
Yemen, one of the oldest and poorest countries in the world, is now facing another challenge. A northern-based militia called the Houthis has now taken over the capital Sana'a and advanced onto South Yemen. This film tells the story of 1 week when the south of Yemen briefly imagined they could defeat the Houthis, break away from the north, and rule their own independent southern state.
Our third nomination is directors Saeed Taj Farouqi, Michael McAvoy, nominated for Tell Spring Not to Come This Year. The judges said this was beautifully constructed, a lyrical window into the life of an Afghan army unit with unusually good access. There were moving moments alongside visceral and powerful combat footage, vividly revealing the cost to Afghan forces as they now fight with little foreign support on the ground.
سال 2014 دوستای بین المللی افغانستان اعلام میکنه تمام صلاحیت‌ها امروز دیده میره که به شما سپاریده شده میره ما توان داشته باشیم که ما از وطن خود سرزمین خود اولاد خود یتیم خود مظلوم خود بیچاره خود بیوه خود ما دفاع کرده بتونیم ما همه تو یک اردو داشته باشیم بعد
مشنم قماندان صاحب یک تا سرباز ما در دستش مرمی خورده.
Three really remarkable reports, two of them highlighting, as I said, one of the most underreported stories of our time. And I'm honoured and delighted to say that the winner, Jeremy Bowen, Nicky Millard, Lena Sinchab and Cara Swift.
Very much, thank you. Thank you everybody, this is a tremendous honour. On behalf of my team, Nicky Millard, Lena Sinjab, Cara Swift, who's at the back there and is very modest and won't come up. I would like to thank all of you, and it's great to be in great company to start with, a great list of people there, and as Jon said, particularly good that there were 2 pieces from Yemen, because I think one thing about the news business in general is that we have a limited sort of mental bandwidth about what we can do, and certainly in big broadcasters like the BBC, sometimes, you know, all our energies go on one particular thing, which these days is mainly Syria and its consequences. So other stories which are very well worth doing, like Yemen, sometimes don't get done enough. So I was very keen to get to Yemen, and we managed to do it. We managed to get there and do a decent story. And there is so much more there, but it's so hard to get there, so hard to operate when you are there. So I thank all of you for this great prize. I'm really honoured, and being judged by a jury of my peers is the best thing of all, because often with awards they say, oh, well, it's all politicised and the rest of it. But actually, I think if it's people who are the journalists, it probably isn't. So I really value this. Thanks very much.
What happens now? Hand over to Roland Watson.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do now.
Oh, Roland, are you here? He is. You know what happens, you know, if you don't have autocue and there's nobody in your ear.
Good evening. I'm Roland Watson. I'm the foreign editor of the Times. It's a very great honour to be able to announce these awards, which are the Richard Beeston Bursary Awards. For those of you who don't know, they are in memory of Richard Beeston, who's the much-loved and highly respected former foreign correspondent and foreign editor of the Times. Rick's integrity and elan set standards that we try to live up to every day. And these awards, which are now in their 2nd year, are fashioned very much to reflect his priorities and his affections. Of all the places that Rick lived and filed from, the Middle East left the deepest mark. At the age of 21, he took himself off to Beirut. He later was the Times' Middle East correspondent in Jerusalem, and he made countless reporting trips to the region in between and after. So the first award is for a promising young journalist from either the Palestinian territories or Israel or Lebanon to come and spend 6 weeks working at the Times. I'm pleased to announce that this year's award goes to Elhanan Miller, who unfortunately cannot be with us tonight. Elhanan is the Arab Affairs correspondent of the Times of Israel and has an impressive grasp and insight into the region. And we look forward very much to learning as much from him while he's in London as he can garner from us. Rick believed passionately that the best foreign correspondents can only grow in the field rather than at a desk. And the second award is to give a young journalist the time and the space to pursue a particular reporting project overseas. I'm delighted to announce that this year's award goes to a London-based reporter who's already amassed an impressive body of work on security and terror issues. You may have noticed a fine piece she had in The Guardian this week, and if you didn't, I commend it to you. It's a fascinating, very detailed and in-depth report from Karachi. So please join me to congratulate the winner of this year's Richard Beeston Bursary, Samira Shackle.
That Karachi piece was really an eye-opener. It was a beautiful piece, really well done. And there are lots of people in this room who remember Richard Beeston. I was lucky enough to work with him sometimes and to view him as a friend. I hope he viewed me as a friend. And it's lovely to see Natasha here tonight. And let us all do all we can to boost this bursary, all the help that we can find, you know, in terms of swelling the fund and publicising it in the region will be incredibly useful. So we do now come to the Frontline Tribute Award. It's judged on a lifetime of work, And this year our panel of judges have awarded it to an amazing character who I'm glad to say that I actually have been long enough in the game to have intersected with when he was at ITN, Sandy Gall. And I guess he does represent precisely what was said right at the top of this evening by Vaughan. He represents courage, integrity, and independence of spirit, which is what these awards are about. The judges said there are few correspondents with a career as long and as devotedly frontline as Sandy Gall's, with a long, distinguished career in journalism that began with Reuters in the early 1950s and included coverage of the 1956 Suez Crisis. Gosh, that's paled into insignificance against the Iraq War, and we thought it was pretty big then, but he'll put that right. The Hungarian Revolution the same year, the Congo. Sandy Gall moved onto broadcast television in the 1960s as a correspondent for ITN. He reported on the Vietnam War through to the fall of Saigon, was on the scene in the Middle East for both the Six-Day War and Yom Kippur Wars, and taken prisoner in Idi Amin's Uganda in the 1980s, already in his 50s. Gosh, if he was in his 50s in 1980, we won't ask, no. Or perhaps he'll disclose in his speech, who knows. Sandy Gall stayed at the front, reporting frequently on the Mujahideen resistance against the Soviet military occupation in Afghanistan. He sustained coverage, his sustained coverage did a huge amount to sensitize the British public about a conflict that was otherwise obscure and undiscovered and undercovered. Sandy Gall went beyond that, however. In 1986, he set up a family-run charity he called Sandy Gall's Afghan Appeal. This was aimed at assisting the countless victims of that brutal conflict. The appeal has helped provide more than 20,000 Afghans with artificial limbs and many more grievously wounded civilians with badly needed physiotherapy. With the courage, humanity, dedication he's repeatedly brought to the stories he has covered, Sandy Gall has helped establish a new gold standard of behaviour for frontline journalists everywhere, making him a richly deserving recipient of our Frontline Tribute Award. Sandy Gall. Microphone. I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm always here. As long as there's a director talking my ear.
It's a great honour to be introduced by Jon Snow, who I've known a very long time and who I admire almost nightly on his news, California. I mean, I'm here tonight, so I couldn't watch tonight. But anyway, that's a great honour. And it's a great honour to get this prize from all you distinguished people and Frontline and Vaughan and all his colleagues who've done so much to put journalism on the front line in the public eye. So I'm very grateful. I don't think I deserve it. I'm sure there are lots of other people who have much more that they could, that you could have paid tribute to tonight. But anyway, I'm very delighted and very honoured. I would just say that I think Reuters, I joined, as Jon said, I joined Reuters first as a very young would-be journalist. That was a wonderful training, I thought. 10 years, and you went all over the place, and you did all sorts of stories. I mean, like the Congo, which was crazy, and all sorts of other things as well. And Suez, for example, by chance almost. And so Reuters was wonderful. And then ITN picked up from that. And the ITN was then very young, gung-ho. Well, yes, I think gung-ho is fair. Not very experienced at all sorts of things. I thought that, for example, they knew nothing about foreign news when I joined. So I thought, well, I can tell them a lot. But, that was probably rather boastful of myself. But anyway, ITN was a great place to work because it was new, young, and if you had ideas, then they were welcomed, as it were. And you could say, why didn't we go there? Why aren't we covering this story? And Geoffrey Cox, who was the editor, would sort of pause. And I mean, he was always thinking about the budget, of course. You know. He was always worried about where you spending money sensibly. And sometimes he would say, well, I don't think we ought to go quite yet. We might go tomorrow or next day or something. And I remember missing the start of the Tet Offensive in Vietnam, for example, in 1968, when, if you remember, the Viet Cong launched a tremendous attack on the Americans in 1968 and nearly captured the American embassy, nearly got into the grounds of the American embassy, the Viet Cong, but didn't actually get into the embassy building. But it was a very near thing. And we missed the beginning of it because Jeffrey was trying to, I shouldn't be. I don't mean to be nasty about him, but he had his own preoccupations, and because we were in the aeroplane and we were in the air going Air France from Paris to Saigon, and the captain came. I remember we landed at various places. I think we landed in Bangkok or somewhere on the way, and the captain came back. And of course, in those days, crews liked to travel first class. So everyone was in first class. We were in first class. I mean, quite extraordinary. Captain came back. I don't travel first class now. Captain came back and said, "Gentlemen, I have bad news for you. We can't land at Saigon." What? Can't land at Saigon? We can't land at Saigon because there's fighting at the airport because the Tet Offensive had started. And so either, he said, you come off at Bangkok or Phnom Penh or something like that. And so we said Phnom Penh, being slightly closer, but it was a mistake actually. However, it took us 2 or 3 days to get to Saigon when all this excitement was going on. So, you know, you lose some and you win some. But but I think that was marvelous. Afghanistan, I suppose, very briefly, I mustn't run on because you'd like to get to the bar, I'm sure. But Afghanistan, I suppose, was the occupied most of my time and most of my interest. I've just been in Kabul for a month. Came back about 2 weeks ago. Things are not good there, as you probably know. This was just before the Kunduz offensive. And the Taliban is now on the warpath, helped by the Pakistanis, as usual, and we don't seem to be doing much about it, the Americans and ourselves. And I wonder how long the Afghan government can survive today against a very efficient Taliban offensive, with lots of support from Pakistan, as I say, and with lots of weapons and so on, and very good, skilled military input. I mean, they know what they're doing. They're very clever. And Afghan army is brave, but losing a lot of people. Anyway, not a good situation, and a government that doesn't work. So, you know, things are looking bad there. Now, if the Taliban do take Kabul soon or in the next few months, then that all the effort we put into Afghanistan for years and years and years, the lives we lost, the Americans and ourselves and our other NATO allies, that will all have gone up in smoke. And that's very sad. So we need to do something about it. But I tried to get an article into the Telegraph or somebody like some newspaper like that, but they're not interested. Anyway, there you are. I suppose they say he's a has-been, and therefore, but so it's so nice to come here. I'm told you're not quite a has-been yet. And here's our prize, so I'm very, very grateful. Thank you very much.
Well, I think we can certainly say Sandy is not a has-been, he's an is, and we're very honoured to be with him. I'm bound, though, to run a quick test, because he said, of course, you'll remember the Tet Offensive in 1968. I'd like those people in the room who remember the Tet Offensive to put their hands up, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, including Bowen. Right. Right. Okay. Well, that's amazing. And one of the things I think Sandy tells us is that it's possible to sustain coherently for a very, very long time if you know how to behave. And he knew how to behave, first class in every respect. Thank you very much, Sandy, and it's an honour to be with you here tonight. So, finally, and on a rather sombre note, can we take a moment to remember those people who cannot be with us tonight, such as Mohammed Ismail Rasool and John Cantley, because they've been imprisoned whilst doing their jobs as journalists. Pray God they are freed and alive. Thank you all for coming, and as Sandy suggested, the bar summons, and there are canopies too. So descend with grace. Thank you very much.